Now, a lot of people questioning the business of what's going on within the police force. I mean, Wayne Couzens, he was somebody who they even termed a rapist, and that was within the force. What's going on with the selection process of people like this?
Well, if everybody believed what the mainstream media have been putting out 24/7 ever since the Wayne Couzens was sentenced to a true life imprisonment, you would have thought that we had got the worst police service in the world, dreadful police officers that don't care. Now, 25 years ago, I was the second police officer in history to break from the ranks. I didn't think the police were being protected as well as they should have been, and I didn't think that the public and victims of crime had an independent voice. So to do that, I risked my career to do it. And for 25 years, I've been a lead campaigner for victims of crime and the reassurance of public safety. So you have probably got one of the most independent voices in Britain here today that speaks on behalf of all three organisations. Let me just tell you about policing and put some sort of perspective here. In the police service, which was 192 years ago, we've probably employed 2 or 3 million police officers. We have had billions of interactions with members of the public and women that have been victims of crime. And once, out of all of that, a reprehensible act committed by a serving police officer has been committed. It was condemned by all of us, and our police colleagues worked tirelessly to arrest one of our own, put them before the courts, and they're now out the job. So much was that investigation, they were given the highest commendation, not only by the judge, but by Sarah Everard's family. Could police do better? We could all do better. The police are the public are the police. The public are not infallible. The police are not infallible. We try and recruit people with the highest caliber that will work as a team to keep Britain safe. When police officers are employed, they have to go through references. And we hope to recruit people with exemplary characters. And we do. 3, 4, 5 years down the line, that officer may not be the same person that we employed. His marriage may have broke down. His wife run off with somebody else. He's got mental health issues. He was seriously assaulted. His life and circumstances and mental health changes. If that slips through the net, we cannot be responsible for somebody's behaviour years after we employed them in their exemplary position. Wayne Couzens,
I hear what you're saying, but I think you can in some respects. So, I mean, let me just I hear everything you're saying, and I know people do change, but he was known within the force as somebody who they termed rapist. And in fact, and this is if the press is to believe, and I do believe this particular thing, that 3 days previous, he was exposing himself outside of a McDonald's restaurant where he was caught on CCTV with his car, and they identified that it was him. So 3 days previous, something could have been done because the restaurant called 999. So I hear you. But what you know, and other officers are coming forward, and he was known as a rapist because of the way he treated the women within the force. So my thoughts, and I know there are some very, very good officers, but how is that allowed at all? How is that allowed within the ranks?
Right, let me answer those 2 points. Very good points. They've been made by Harriet Harman, Yvette Cooper, and many other people, including a police crime commissioner, that are clueless of the full facts. I actually know many of the facts, which I won't discuss now. I'll wait for the reports to come out from the Independent Office of Police Corruption. Your 2 points. Within policing, many of us have nicknames. I was called Sonic. All of us are called nicknames for various reasons, normally jobs that we did or errors that we made.
Okay.
Just because you're called a name, unless there's evidence, and rapist, I've never heard of anybody ever be called that, but unless there's evidence that's put forward to a court or a disciplinary panel or a senior officer, it doesn't matter what name you call that officer, it will be nothing more than a name. So unless we can put some credible evidence to that, then let's put that to one side, please. And the second point, which is very important, is this. Wayne Couzens hired a hire car in his own name. And you're right, I was aware very early afterwards that apparently he had indecently exposed himself at a McDonald's drive-through. OK, that call was put through probably that afternoon, maybe at the end of the shift. Wayne Couzens had driven away from McDonald's. By the time the police were told about it, he'd gone. So that goes down from a grade 1 call, which is where we turn up on the blues and twos, to grade 3. It is put in amongst dozens, if not hundreds, of other crime investigations.
But he's a police officer. But he's a police officer, and he's done that. So I'm not understanding. As a police officer, he's done that. There should be some sort of disciplining or something.
If you let me finish, the caveat is just where I was going to come. Stinging the tail is this: when you hire a car, you're not down as a police officer. You're down as Hertz, Avis, you name it. As I said, that is put into an investigation stream. That will be allocated to an officer, just like burglaries are, maybe 5, 6 or 7 days later. The only time the police will know that that particular individual is a police officer is when we go to Hertz the next day, 3 or 4 days later, and we get a copy of the details he filled in. We then do a PNC check on that particular individual. We find out who he is. That may be 7 or 10 days afterwards. And it's only then that we know who that individual is. A hire car company will not say, yep, we've done that. Those officers that were investigating that crime, 3, 4, 5, 7 days later, and he was arrested 72 hours later, could never have known that a police officer had hired a car and had kidnapped, raped, murdered, and burnt a female. The only time police officers will know is when they follow out those investigations. So all of these people that are saying they must have known he was a police officer, if I was given that investigation 5 or 7 days later, I would have phoned or visited Avis Car Hire and said, who did you rent this vehicle to? Right. They would have said, here is his name and address. Often there's no occupation. I would then go back to my nick and do a PNC check on that registered keeper to find out who he is. I would then go round to see him, not necessarily that day, because the crime was committed a week ago. Is he a threat to somebody? Indecent exposure, serious crime, but it's not as serious as somebody raping someone or attacking someone at the streets where all the officers will attend.
Well, Norman, you might join the dots, though, a little bit. You might think, well, they're calling him this name, and also he's been known for his pornography, and Philip Alott also said that he knew of this reference.